Papa's gotta shoot some videos and work. You guys stay in here. That's right, you stay in here while I work. So I want to talk to you about this, waste. How we make our citrus stock or our Stuice at Congress Street Up. A concept started a couple years ago by Ian Griffiths and Kelsey Ramage at Trash Tiki. Reusing something that on an everyday basis we would always throw out in every bar, especially bars that do cocktails. They are juicing every day. You end up with a bunch of citrus husks that just get tossed into the garbage. So they came up with a great way to thinking about it in a culinary sense and making a stock out of that, and then adding citric acid, malic acid to mimic the flavor profile of lemon juice, lime juice, your citrus juices, because one thing we talk about in the cocktail world is, sour, right? In a sour, you have that one part of sweet, one part sour, and 2 parts of your spirit or something savory. So we always say fresh is best, right? Citrus juice, fresh is best. Here, though, is kind of flipping it on it. So we need to incorporate acid into some type of liquid. We're juicing or going through probably 1 to 2 quarts of just lemon juice and then 1 or 2 quarts of just lime juice every day. So these things add up really quickly in a working everyday bar. And I just let them collect throughout the day and until I get to 1,000 grams or 1 kilogram, or for Imperial, right, 2.2 pounds of husks by weight. We're gonna make a stock out of this. Everything that we're gonna do is by weight so that we have consistency in our measurements. We're gonna start out with 1,500 grams weighed out of water, and we're basically going to bring that to a boil. We're going to add our husks, bring that back to a boil, let that boil for a little bit, then remove the husks, and that really great juice or stock, we're going to simmer that down to concentrate our flavors. Then once we have this really nice concentrated stock, we still need to add stuff. We need to add our sour component, or what makes it sour. And that's where, based on what you guys want to, how the flavor profile you want it to be, citric acid, malic acid, these are the ones that are most prevalent in lemon juice, lime juice. And this is all based off of the guidelines that Trash Tiki has kind of set up to work for you, because even they say that on their website, and I'll put it up right over there, is that this is kind of works out for you and how you do your juicing, because different juicing produces different kinds of husks. There's still a certain level in lemon juice and lime juice that you get of sweetness, so we're still also going to add in our mix some sugar. Tools that you need: something to strain, and then something to catch all that straining bits and pieces. A larger scale just to get larger measurements, at a smaller scale that actually measures in the 0.01, because we really want things to be exact so that we can once again get consistency in our day-to-day production of the stock. So let's get started making this. So 1,500 grams of water measured out, we're gonna put into our stock pot and start it to get it to a full boil. I've set up timers to kind of keep me on pace. For this production cooker at full tilt, that 1,500 grams of water is going to pretty much come to a boil. Spreadsheets, making fun of Jason, and that's it. Why I'm so exact with weight, it's because I just want to be very consistent on my day-to-day on production of this so that it's always going to taste the same. My timing goes 4.5 minutes for lemon husks and 3.5 minutes for lime husks that I boil to create that stock. And then it's going to, based on that, I have different time frames, 10 minutes for the lemon and 13 minutes for the citrus kind of stock to simmer down to get to an ultimate 1,000 grams of stock. So we're coming down to it. That's my alarm to tell myself, okay, stop what you're doing, go check on your stock. And still hasn't come to a boil, but that's okay because it's about to come to a boil. The thing though that to think about is, this is a catch-all of husks, so we're just making a straight citrus stock of mishmash, all the stuff. But in a working bar, I'm usually just working with just lemons, just limes, just oranges, so that I can work my way making that very specific stock, and I add it to fresh juice so that we make a Stuice. And that's basically a really cool way to get to a very close-like flavor profile to actual fresh juice. Okay, now we're at a rolling boil. I'm gonna add my husks. Just kind of give it a stir to get them all submerged in that 1,500 grams of water. Remember, that was 1,000 grams or 1 kilogram of husks to 1,500 grams or 1.5 kilograms of water by weight. And then I'm going to start my timer. So this is time that I get my next step ready, because we only have 4 minutes until this comes off, and I really want to get that timing down so that it only spends that very specific amount of time boiling. Because if you go any further than that, you can start to impart bitter flavor profiles into your stock, and that's what we don't want. Because I'm going to have something to catch the water as well as chinois to dump that to catch that. It's going to happen like that. If I have time and I'm not doing a bunch of other things, at the halfway point, right around 2 minutes, I just like to give it a nice little stir, make sure everything is nice and submerged. The key though is to keep it covered, because whatever flavor is getting boiled out of those husks, we're trying to keep that in the water. We're trying to keep that focused in there. Coming on 30 seconds, and I really want to be around to pull it off right away. At 10 seconds, this is at a super full rolling boil again, but we're going to pull it off in 5 seconds. Great. Then we're going to pull this out. We're going to turn it off. And this is going to go straight through. Please be careful. This is super hot, and that steam can really burn you bad if you're not aware of it. Now the guys at Trash Tiki, because they usually use husks that are hand squeezed for juice, they like to squeeze it again to try and get as much as possible. Because for us, because we use a lever juicer, I just kind of give it a good shaking. I'm just gonna put these to the side for a second. We're gonna weigh this out. And weight-wise already, when we started out at 1,500 grams, from that boiling and whatever we lost to evaporation and whatever stuck in there, we just about boiled off about 250 grams. Right now, we're at 1,262 grams of water. And then I know that over that 10 minutes, it's gonna evaporate down to our perfect goal of 1,000 grams of citrus stock. Let's measure it again one more time. It's got a really nice kind of lemony or limey kind of color. So we've added it back, and then we're going to put this on full tilt to bring it back up to a boil. But then once it's up to a boil, we're gonna knock it down back to medium and let it simmer uncovered for about 10 minutes. On this particular conduction machine, with this pot simmering off, it takes about 10 minutes. So we're starting to see some action in here. We're gonna lower the heat and then go do something else. So I'm gonna take this time to floss. So we're about 4.5 minutes left of our 10-minute simmer now. We're slowly simmering this because we have this great flavor that's inherently in there, right? But it's stretched out, and we want to focus those great citrus oil flavors that we got from boiling that to make a stock, and focus those flavors down to 1,000 grams. Why do we do 1,000 grams? It's just because then the math is a lot simpler to do. 7% of 1,000 grams is 70 grams, right? And then depending on your citric acid or malic acid and the flavor profile that you want to get to, you do different percentages of that. So we're going to do 3% of citric acid and 2% of malic acid, 30 grams of citric acid and 20 grams of malic acid. And this is just based on the flavor profile that we like. If you want it more tart, up those numbers to 4%, 5% of different acids, because it's ultimately what you want. My real goal though is to get to between 1010 and 1020. That's 1,010 or 1,020 grams of weight, because once we pull this off, it's still going to evaporate. So I kind of give myself a buffer of just non-cooking time of about 10 to 20 grams of loss and just resting evaporation. And that will get us down to that 1,000 that we really end up once everything's well rested. So you're probably thinking to yourself, Paul, you're a psychopath. Yeah, I am. Oh, great, perfect. What I'm gonna do is put this plate on here, any kind of evaporation, to try and keep it as much as we can, because we want our ratios to be right. So now we're gonna measure out our 3 components that take this base citric stock and then add the inherent sugars that are already in citrus fruit, right? It's fruit, it's gonna have some level of sweetness to it, for at least for lemon and lime stock. My goal is 70 grams per 1,000 grams of stock, and that's 7% of weight. And I'm using this even more specific, 0.01 gram scale, because I want to be that exact. 0.5, 70, perfect. Now we're going to do citric acid. Citric acid is the basis to that tartness that you get from lemons. Citric acid is also a great stabilizer, shelf stabilizer. We're gonna do 3% of weight, so that's 30 grams of citric acid. Perfect. And then this is malic acid. Malic acid is a very different type of tartness than citric acid. It is, we're just gonna pour straight in there. We're gonna go 2% by weight, so that's 20 grams. It offers kind of a different kind of tartness that you get from lime, and even sometimes trace amounts of it are in green apples. Perfect, 20 grams. Gonna rinse off any of these sugars and acids that were caught in there. Then we're gonna give this a good stir to incorporate everything. So here comes the nitty-gritty of working out recipes that work for you, right? So for about a month at the museum at Congress Street Up, as we were working through this process, it was every day working on this, tasting fresh juice. So this is fresh lemon juice, and comparing it to my lemon stock or lime stock and seeing how close I could get it. If it's anything that you haven't done, I think it's a really good experiment and a practice to do to really get lemon juice. So tart, but a little bit of sweetness comparatively to lime, which is like, whoo! That's what I think. And then tasting this lemon stock based off, but this is, remember, this is a bunch of different citrus husks together, so this isn't going to be quite exact. But because we are doing Okay, so comparatively between the two, still that same level of tartness, but a little bit of a different flavor profile, but that's okay. Benefits of just using stock, right? This is a little bit more shelf stable than fresh juice. You know, we always say fresh is best. There are some bars that go, that day you juice it, that's the only time you can use it, then it's just waste. There are some other bars that give you 2 days. There are some other volume bars that will go 3 days. You know, this has a shelf life, and you have to really, to be cost effective, you really have to pinpoint how much juice you have to juice every day. The great thing though about stock is that this can go a lot longer, right? And even more so, the way that this decays is differently than fresh juice. I've seen really great applications of citrus stock into other processes, like keg cocktails, right? Which is our big thing. Adding fresh juice to a keg cocktail that is supposed to be sitting in a refrigerator in a keg for more than, 2 days, it's counterintuitive, right? Because that juice is going to degrade and decay. But by making a stock and then just adding our acid components to get to that sourness, this is a much more shelf-stable addition to your kegged cocktail system. Something to think about, right? But for us at Congress Street Up, because we're going through at least 1 to 2 quarts every day, that's 32 ounces. The same thing as a liter, which is 33 and change ounces. What we're doing is we're just trying to extend our juice, right? So by adding half of stock to half of juice, it's totally kind of transformed our bottom line numbers. So how do we do that, right? So taking stock, which you can use standalone, and you have juice, which you can use as a standalone product, marry them together, and the trash tiki guys call it Stuice. So what I'll do is I will have our liter bottles that we keep our juice in, and I'm gonna measure out 16 ounces. And then I'm going to fill this bottle of just lemon stock or citrus stock. And then I'm gonna write labels on there. And then per 1,000 grams, right, of this stock, you get about 2.5 of these bottles, right? So we'll have in our refrigerator these bottles lined up of just citrus stock. And the thing is, we go through it so fast because it's a rhythm that we're going through of making stock and using the stock with fresh juice that we've never, it's never lasted more than 4 days. So we do it at the beginning of the week, and then we do it at the middle of the week to prep for that weekend. And you can kind of see the labels here that, this is what I made citrus stock. If it was just lemons, it would just be lemon stock. If it was just limes, it would be lime stock. But then I always have this note in here to please add 16 ounces of fresh, whatever juice it would be, lemon or lime. So for example, right here, this was the amount of lemon juice that I squeezed to get to all of our husks, because our goal was to have 1,000 grams of husks to use, right? So I have this, I'm gonna measure this out. So 6 ounces, right, of fresh lemon juice, plus another 6 ounces of our just straight stock. Pour that back in here. And now we have Stuice. What are we gonna do? Label, label, label everything so we know what's what when we go in there. So I'm gonna label this citrus Stuice. Oh, and the date that we did it. Now, if I did this though, because remember, this is sitting in the fridge, 4:15, right? So if it was Monday, right? Or wait, what's today? Today's Wednesday, 4:15, right? That's when the Stuice was made. Now, let's say that we come in on Friday, right? 4:17, right? When I label that stock and juice mixture, then I'll label the Stuice that particular date of the fresh juice, which would be 4:17. But today, we made it all the same day. Citrus Stuice. So, here we have, citrus stock and citrus Stuice, which is combining stock with fresh juice, and then, fresh juice. Are they all the same? Completely not. They're all three different very things that, depending on the cocktail that you want, utilize it. Dave Arnold, who talks a little bit about making stock and Stuice and acid adjusting things, points out that, they are different things, and that's totally okay as long as you're honest with yourself and honest with the people that you're making that drink with. Sometimes, one is going to be better than the other. But as far as working the rhythm of a everyday professional bar, we just decided that we wanted to be less wasteful, maximize our resources that we have, and ultimately still make good drinks and have a process that ensures that consistency of taste and flavor and the product that we give you, our guests. Same way that you would do that for your guests in your own home. I really enjoy making these videos for you. It's been a really introspective time, and it makes me really think about what we're doing here. If you guys have any requests of things for me to talk about or do, please hit me up, or please in the comments, please put those in there so that I can do more personalized content for you guys. Whew, that was a good video. All right, guys, I'm done shooting the video. You can come out. No, but I'm done. I want... Ugh.